Hey there guys, how is everyone doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel, and I want to discuss today the Mario Remasters and that whole rumor when it comes to Nintendo Switch titles and stuff that we might actually see throughout the rest of the year. The fact that this was a pretty big story a couple of months ago, and it really felt pretty darned real at that time. And now here we are a couple of months later, and we really haven't heard anything else about them. Are they real? Are they not? And I also wanted to discuss why I'm honestly pretty ready for these games to release. So like I said, we all remember a couple of months ago when this story kind of just popped up out of nowhere, and suddenly there was this whole rumor out there that Nintendo was going to be celebrating Mario's 35th anniversary, specifically at E3, before it was canceled, of course. With a presentation and with a decision to release a lot of the old classic 3D Mario games on the Nintendo Switch. And along with that story came a couple of weird details and also a lot of questions, because it definitely didn't let us know if Nintendo was planning on making these HD remasters, if these were going to be full-on remakes, if they were going to be selling these as individual titles. Were they going to be maybe like a collection or a compilation of these titles? Physical, digital, full price, discount price. I mean, all of these things, and you've heard me bring it up on several videos over the last couple of months as well, these exact questions. And we've never really gotten the answers to those questions, and like I said, we've also not even seen these games. And I think one of the main reasons I wanted to bring this back and discuss this a little bit more really has to do with the last story that I covered on my most recent video a couple of days ago, where Nintendo, at an investors meeting, actually said that they have games set for the rest of this year and that they are, quote, still on track to release the way that they wanted, even though we're in the midst of this health crisis and a second wave is happening or even incoming, and maybe some dates might be subject to change. But right now, internally within Nintendo, whatever games they think that they have planned for the rest of 2020, they say are still on track, even though we, the gamer and the gamer community, don't really know what any of those games are. It was a very interesting and exciting, but also kind of frustrating piece of news, right? Which I'm sure that you guys gathered from watching my video and my discussion about it. And through that, I started to think, okay, well, if they're telling us that whatever games they're making are still on track for 2020, I guess I need to start wondering what games those could be, right? Because the only games that we know that they're making, Nintendo specifically, by the way, that we know that they're making are Breath of the Wild 2 and Metroid Prime 4. We don't really know about any other first-party big Nintendo games, right? No More Heroes 3, Bayonetta 3, Bravely Default. These games, as cool and great as they're going to be, and although they will be exclusive, they're not Nintendo games. Even the Bayonetta IP, Nintendo doesn't own that, even though they have exclusive publishing rights for 2 and 3. It's not a Nintendo franchise, it is not first party. And honestly, this just brought me back to the Mario Remasters. I was like, that was really the only other Nintendo-related thing that we've heard about so far in 2020 that wasn't Animal Crossing or Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, right? Or, you know, I guess there's the Pokemon stuff too, which technically falls in this category. But the only other thing we heard about were these Mario Remasters. And again, like I hinted at the beginning of the video, what was really interesting and pretty exciting about that story when it broke a couple of months ago is how really real it felt. There was something about it that just, in my brain, and I think in a lot of people's brains, just clicked as something that felt like was going to happen. The way the story was reported, it almost sounded like a foregone conclusion. Granted, I made sure to continually remind you guys and remind myself that it wasn't confirmed, and we don't know if it's real until Nintendo shows us it's real. So I'm not trying to say that we need to get our hopes up and we need to expect it as fact, and that it would be appropriate for us to get mad at Nintendo if these things don't turn out to be real, because in a world where it was a made-up rumor, that wouldn't actually be Nintendo's fault. But with all of that stuff behind us, when I just look forward to the rest of the year, I consider Nintendo's quotes about games being on track and on schedule, and then I consider the rumor about these Mario remasters, I tell myself that, you know what, I am ready for these games. I want these Mario games really, really badly. And normally, in any other year, I feel like, I mean, I would still be like excited for something like 3, 4, or 5 Mario remasters on the Switch, but I would feel a little bit more disappointed in a normal year, because I would be wondering why Nintendo might be wasting so much time or resources on just like remastering older games as opposed to making and releasing brand new ones. But because this year is so weird, and because Nintendo's business and many businesses in the gaming industry are so affected by what's been going on, I feel like these Mario remasters, if they're true, and if there's several of them, become a pretty worthy band-aid, I guess I'll call it, to the slow release year that we're seeing from Nintendo. They become worthy games to kind of supplement the slower calendar of games. And because I also am just a Mario fan, because I'm a huge Nintendo fan, a huge gaming fan, I think it's really hard, if not almost impossible, for a big gaming fan to not be a fan of Mario games. I also want them just for that reason, because I love Mario, and I love all the games that have been rumored and discussed. I mean, Mario 64 and Mario Galaxy alone are my two absolute top favorite Mario games, as you may know from watching my top 10 Mario games list. Spoiler alert for that list. And then, Mario 3D World, of course, a very good game, a Wii U port that we expect. And then Mario Sunshine, I'm excited for because I am one of those people in the camp of really liking and enjoying Mario Sunshine. I obviously know and recognize and acknowledge its problems. It's not amazing, it's not perfect, it's not the best Mario game by any stretch, but I do think it's very good, and I think it's way better than a lot of people want to tell you. And I love the idea of that game getting a second chance on the Switch, if the route that they would be going would be a remaster with polished up graphics and controls. If they could do that and really show people the true definitive version of what Mario Sunshine is supposed to be, that would make me overjoyed, and I would love to see it, and I would love to support it. I think that one of the big questions we all have to ask ourselves when it comes to this concept of these Mario remasters is if they would really satiate your need for more games on the Nintendo Switch this year, and specifically more Nintendo games, more Nintendo IPs, first-party developed and published titles, first-party Nintendo characters. Would this be enough to take the place of the other games that we probably would otherwise have been getting this year, without this health situation changing everything? I think everyone's going to have their own different answers and unique opinions and perspectives on that. I would say that no one is really wrong. The only thing I ever think is wrong, and I say this often in these kinds of conversations, is if you're just being a jerk about it. People who are just being an asshole, they're being toxic, they're just yelling and swearing at people and telling everyone their opinion is wrong because it doesn't match their own. That's when somebody becomes wrong. But if we have 10 of us lined up in a row, and all 10 of us have a different opinion and perspective and desire for these Mario games and for the rest of Nintendo's 2020, that becomes fine by default. All 10 of us are allowed to have 10 different opinions about these Mario games, and that's totally okay, as long as none of us are yelling at the other person about whether or not they're stupid for feeling that way. The other question I think that we can ask here is, if these Mario games are not real, and I'll tell you, the longer we go every day without seeing these things confirmed or talked about from Nintendo, the more I think that they're not real. If they're not real, how does that mean the rest of the year is going to play out? How do we then feel about a 2020 where we don't get, at the bare minimum, these Mario remasters, re-releases of old games we've already played? Does this really hinder or hurt or destroy their year in terms of library? And I'm not going to say that it's going to destroy the year, that it's going to be the worst thing in the world, and oh my god, Nintendo, how dare you not give us all these games. But I will say that it's gonna be not great. I mean, I think I can at least say that. I really question whether or not Nintendo truly has a lot of games to release throughout the rest of the year, even though they just came out with that quote about everything being on track for the back half of the year. I still don't really think that they have that much planned. I think these Mario games might literally be their last Hail Mary to get some sort of significant software out at the end of the year. And again, it has to be stated over and over again, they're not even new games if these rumors are true. They're old games, but they are still significant games, and they will sell very well, and we will buy them, and we will love them, and enjoy them, and play them, and that'll be great. Without these, I think the back half of the year is pretty barren. We pretty much only have, Paper Mario comes out in a couple of weeks in the dead middle of the year in the middle of summer. Beyond that, there's Pokemon Snap and Pokemon Unite, and that really seems to be it from Nintendo. And so, even though I played the hell out of all of these Mario games back in their day when they released, I still would like to see them happen. I would like to see them come out this year because I'm losing faith in Nintendo having any other significant new games to release in 2020. And if this is all I can get, if this is all I can cling to hope for, these 3 or 4 Mario Remaster re-release ports, I'm gonna do it because I love these games already. I would love to play them again on my Switch, especially if they tweak and update them, you know, visually and control wise and frame rate wise. Of course, I'm gonna want to play these games again. And if this is all I have, I'm just gonna be like, hey, Nintendo, at least you gave me this. But I mean, we just still need to see these games be real, right? We need to see Nintendo talk about them. We need to see Nintendo talk about anything. We're long enough into the year and into this health crisis that I think, you know, coming off of these quotes about everything's on track for the rest of the year, it's at the time where I think Nintendo needs to actually start kind of showing their hand, and they need to start putting their money where their mouth is and proving to us that they do have stuff for 2020. Or they should have done what I said they should have done at the beginning of the year and just come right out and tell us that they don't have stuff, that they are taking the year off, that they're not going to be giving us significant games in 2020 because of this reason, so we can all say, okay, we get it, Nintendo. You're allowed to take this time. It's a unique situation. At least you're telling us what you're doing, and we're fine waiting. And since they haven't done that, it's at the point where they should be telling us what's going on. So these are my thoughts and opinions on the Mario Remaster thing, if that rumor is ever going to come back, if it's going to be true, if it might be fake, and how it could play into what we're seeing for the rest of 2020, you know, coming off of Nintendo's recent quotes about it. Very interesting times, man. And of course, I want to hear what you think about my thoughts, and then what are your own thoughts and opinions about this whole thing, and what you think might play out over the course of the next couple of months. And with that, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.